So we're away. And it's already Quizera straight to the front, the Burundian who's based in Spain. Chelimo in the white vest of Casone Noceto, also up there at this early stage of the race. Well, this is a flying start to this race. They're really hammering it straight from the gun. It's 8.7 kilometers. Well, Quizera last year won over 10 kilometers, so slightly shorter race this year. It's just starting to settle down a little bit. There's Quizera already featuring at the front. Vincent Rono there in the green and white hoops. Ruben Longasiwa for the Benfica club in the red vest at Benfica. Like many of the clubs in Southern Europe, they're multi-sport clubs. So the clubs of the colours of Sporting and Benfica, familiar as football strips. Just getting into the running at this stage. This is a very quick pace in these early stages of the race. You can see some of the athletes skidding around that slight incline, having problems negotiating that sandy turn. Well, that's an audacious start. I'm not quite sure who that runner is at this stage. Starting to get a little bit hotter out there. Of course, just gone past midday local time. So it's 12:13 Central European time. This is a very, very courageous. I'm just wondering whether it's a foolhardy start. It's one of the Canica Serrano club, founded and coached by the famous Spanish long-distance runner Antonio Serrano. Well, now the rest of the team starting to close and bring him home. And now they're starting to close the gap after that ridiculously audacious start. Looking much more comfortable behind the leader is Quizera of Playas de Castellón in the green vest of the Spanish club. Also Ruben Longasiwa of Benfica. That super fast start has really taken its toll on some of the middle order men. It's Vincent Rono at the front, the Kenyan. Rono, twice running the World Cross Country Championships. Now 32 years of age. There's a sub 60-minute half marathon to his name. Some of his best years perhaps were back in 2017 when he ran in the World Cross Country Championships and ran that 59.57 half marathon best, 59.27 I should say, which was a world-class time. Benfica runner Ruben Longisua. Just making their way around the course. Longisua deciding to go to the front, somewhat ungainly running style compared to the much more fluent actions of Rono and Quizera. Chelimo darting around some of his teammates from the Italian club. Oh gosh, but quite a lot of pushing and shoving around those tight turns. Chelimo just glancing, possibly in a slightly irritated fashion. He's getting very, very boisterous out there. Quizera now got himself to the front. Dominated 12 months ago when he won in Hueras and took the race by the scruff of the neck from the halfway point. So at the moment it's Quizera, Longisua, Chelimo now just steadied himself after that pushing and shoving around the bend. He's up in third place. Vincent Rono, fifth last year, tagged on to the back of the group. So that's the 1, 2, 3, 4, and those men are starting to move away from the rest of the field at this stage. Quizera now starting to get into his running. Well, Quizera won in San Giorgio sul Legnano back at the start of January when Chelimo was back in fourth. Comes into this race on a 3-race winning streak, having also won in Venta de Baños in December and Alcobendas at the end of November. Last defeat was at the famous Italica race in Sevilla in mid-November. Oh, now very clearly the men all starting to move away. It's the 4 Africans representing 4 different European clubs at the front. Quizera from Burundi. It's looking as though it might be Playas de Castillon who are in the lead at the moment, but this is just the first lap. Nothing much between Benfica and Sporting at the moment for the 2 Portuguese clubs in second and third. So Playas de Castillon, 19 points to their name after the first lap. Well, there's been huge success for Spanish clubs in this competition, but Playas de Castillon have never won the senior men's race. Had the Bikila team winning in 2019. Turn the clock back a bit further, we had Union Guadalajara in 2015. Tequila were on a 3-year winning streak between 2012 and 2014. The Adidas team, which isn't in this race, but you saw in the senior women's race, won on a number of occasions further back. So still Rodrigue Quizera, popular figure in the Playas de Castellón team, very much the poster boy of this competition. He represents Burundi internationally, but is based in Spain. Speaks good Spanish. Went out into the local schools recently with many other members of the Playas de Castellón team and was very warmly welcomed by school children. They recognise him as well, getting youngsters involved in the sport, which I think is a great initiative. And it's Quizera starting to move away from Longasiwa and Rono, representing the two Portuguese clubs. Oscar Chilimo at the moment just struggling just a little bit. Doesn't look too comfortable on the sand. The Ugandan running for Cesare Nosoto. So Quizera, 10-meter lead at the moment over Vincent Rono. Rono showing good form at this stage. Struggled a bit to recapture that great form that he had around 2017. Longasiwa hasn't got great times to his name, but a very solid runner. Good runner on the roads. It's over 10 kilometers. Hasn't run many cross-country events, but on this sort of surface, apart from the sand, could well come to the fore. It's a dry, fast circuit. Now Chilimo has moved up very steadily into second place. Chilimo reduced his best to 13 minutes and 42 hundredths in Brussels at the Diamond League last September. He's a man with great speed. Now he's got up on the shoulder of Quizera. Quizera doesn't have the same sort of track speed as Chilimo, but is a hugely experienced and a very tough cross-country runner. So it's 1 and 2 from last year, 1 and 2 at the moment in this race. Last year, Quizera put 21 seconds between himself and Chilimo by the time they reached the finish line. Just wondering whether the slightly shorter distance of this race will play into the hands of Chilimo. Last year the race was over exactly 10 kilometers. Out of curiosity, the temperature's almost exactly the same. I'm just looking at the results from 12 months ago. It was 14 degrees this time last year in Portugal, and it's 13 to 14 degrees here on the Mediterranean coast of Spain in Oropesa del Mar. So Quizera, Chilimo, Longasiwa. Vincent Rono for Sporting starting to drift back just a little bit. Playas de Castellón. We'll need to have a look back and see where the other runners are, but they're showing 12 points at the moment. Playas de Castellón in very good shape as far as the team competition is concerned. Aranda Heras in the top 10 as well, just I can see, just looking down the race. Aranda Heras, the 2018 under-20 men's winner at the European Champion Clubs Cup cross-country. You can see Heras just at the end of your shot. See that Chiqui Perez it was. I thought it was him, but I wasn't quite sure at a distance, who had that audacious start over the first 500-600 meters. Currently down in 10th place at the moment, so you have to assume that that was a pretty deliberate tactic just to get himself clear. Give them something quick to think about. There's De Heras coming through, you can see. Also running well for Playas de Castellón. In the top 10, Sergio Paniagua. Paniagua, Spanish international on the track as well. So Playas de Castellón, the home club, really taking this event very, very seriously, both in terms of their organisational skills and the teams that they're putting out. Quezera looks a lot more comfortable on that sand than his two counterparts. Rono, once again, not looking at all happy when he's having to take to the sand. Of course, the sand not being flattened or evened out during the gap between the races, but it's still Quezera pushing the pace at the front. This is a really, really impressive pace that he's putting together. This is one of the shorter races he'll have encountered during the course of this winter at 8.7 kilometers. But he's still being tracked by Ruben Longasiwa, the man who's made his name on the roads, and Oscar Chelimo. Really a man for all surfaces, but now known as a track runner after his exploits last year. But it's Playas de Castellón of Spain in front, Benfica of Portugal in second place, and Noceto of Italy in third. There's those three, like steeplechase barriers, more like park benches in some respects. Longasiwa doesn't have too many problems with the sand as well, but Chelimo a little bit more tentative perhaps. But still Quezera at the front. Quezera ran a personal best of 27.25 over 10,000 meters on the track last year. It's a 5,000 meter best of 13.20 again set last year, actually on a nearby track in Castellón. So his track times don't compare with Chelimo's, but he's without doubt got the better credentials at cross country. Quezera finished 11th at the last World Cross Country Championships when they were held in Aarhus in Denmark, representing Burundi. As with some of the senior women, I'm wondering whether he's going to be going to Bathurst for the World Cross Country Championships. That's a long trip down into the southern hemisphere, and it's going to be very hot conditions there. It's going to be run at the height of the Australian summer. I've known some cross-country commentators who've questioned that wisdom of holding it at that time of year, and also the long trip. I don't think the heat would bother Quezera that much. He's used to running in warm conditions even into the 20s, and sometimes in Spanish races, even during the winter. Here, rather splendid 14 degrees. So Chelimo's edged himself past Longasiwa into second place now. Longasiwa just starting to look a little bit tired. So they've got about just over 2 kilometers to go, I think. It's now breaking down the same sort of pattern as last year. But last year Quizera was out on his own from the halfway point. This year Chelimo, another year older and another year stronger, is really tracking him very, very closely. There's the wrap up of the team competition. Playas de Castellón well in front at the moment. Sporting Club just in front of Benfica, with the two Portuguese clubs battling for silver and bronze on the team podium. Last year, Noceto squeezed onto the podium in third place, helped by Chelimo's second place. Looks as though they're out of contention this year at this stage. Still another lap to go. Now Quizera looks as though he's surging, just trying to drop Chelimo. This is where his experience comes into play. We've got a bit more than a kilometre to go. Chelimo is just starting to lose contact with Rodrigo Quizera. Now Ruben Longasiwa starting to drift back. And it's Quizera who really is starting to push now for the very first time. Chelimo just looks a bit tired. And then a long way back in third place is Longasiwa. So that gap very quickly has become 20 meters between Rodrigo Quizera and Oscar Chelimo. Playas de Castellón man starting to move away. Rodrigo Quizera now really looking very, very comfortable. Not troubled at all by that challenging beach section. Straight out, straight on, straight back onto the grass. Is this the decisive move in the race? Well, I think he feels he's very, very confident indeed. He's coming up. It's very quick indeed, this race. Just remember, it's only just over 8 kilometers. And Rodrigo Quizera once again comes through. Rodrigo Quizera takes the individual honours at the European Champion Clubs Cup Cross Country.